They didn't want to create vaccine hesitancy. Their email saying, remember, President Biden really wants to push these boosters. They wanted to mandate this. So the very people who approved these vaccines, the very people who were supposed to be watching for the smallest little safety signals so they could warn the public, they were warned of major safety signals and they covered it up.
Welcome to this week's episode of Going Rogue with Lara Logan, and my guest is a very familiar face to most Americans. Out of Minnesota, Ron Johnson has been representing his constituents for the better part of 15 years. Ron, you have the unenviable task to be part of a Senate that won't pass the Save America Act, which is making a lot of people all over the country very, very, very unhappy. Do you think there's any chance that's going to happen?
Well, first of all, I was born in Minnesota, but I represent Wisconsin. I chose to live in Wisconsin. But anyway, unfortunately, if we don't end the filibuster, I don't think that's going to happen. There are certain elements of the Save America Act that we could possibly pass through reconciliation, provide funding for voter ID and, cleaning up the voter rolls, that type of thing. But, Democrat jurisdictions probably won't clean up their voter rolls.
No.
So, unfortunately, again, I've been advocating to end the filibuster. Not because I necessarily want to do it. I mean, if Democrats are on the table, they're in control, I'd like the filibuster so we can stop their destructive legislation. The problem is when they get in that position, they're going to end it anyway. And, too many of my Republican colleagues are in a state of denial thinking, oh, no, I'm sure they regret that vote when they voted to end the filibuster when they were in control. No, they don't. They're just biding their time. And also I've got Republican colleagues that don't want to basically give them, vote to give them that tool because they're afraid to use the tool themselves. So from my standpoint, I think we have to recognize the reality. Democrats do not respect the 60-vote threshold. They will end it. Their goal is to turn America into a one-party nation. It's why they flooded America with millions of unvetted illegal immigrants, shepherded them into sanctuary cities, plus up those numbers, increase members of Congress. When they get that majority, they'll end the filibuster, pack the Supreme Court, turn D.C., Puerto Rico into states, nationalize elections, automatic registration, mail-in ballots. That's what Democrats want to do. We need to prevent them from doing that, and one of the ways to do it is end the filibuster, pass the full Save America Act.
So this is something that keeps coming up, Ron. You say they're afraid to use this tool, right? That's what I've heard about a number of different things. Like, for example, with the auto pen and the pardons. What some people have said to me is, they don't want to go after the pardons because they're going to need pardons, from when Trump steps down, because people are so afraid of what's going to happen post-Trump. People seem to be more afraid of the deep state and the bureaucracy and their enemies than they are of the people that are in power.
Well, I've always felt, the best defense is a really good offense.
Yeah.
And, we shouldn't be playing defense at this point in time. Our nation is in peril. It's in peril from radical leftism. It's just that simple. This is not the Democrat Party of my parents and grandparents.
No.
The Democrat Party has been completely taken over by radical leftists. It really started with Obama. You remember right before he was elected, he said, we are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming America. And he meant it. That wasn't empty rhetoric. He meant it. And he and his disciples have been on that path of transforming America. And they've done a pretty effective job of destroying it. I mean, Obama, he was all for just, a marriage between a man and woman. Got in office, immediately, gay marriage was okay. The way they have pushed transgenderism, the mutilation of children on the altar of transgenderism, boys and girls sports. I mean, boys using men's, biological males using female lockers in bathrooms. This is crazy stuff. But it's completely embraced by the Democrat Party. And, of course, their open border policy, flood millions of people completely unvetted, potentially terrorist cells, some people from some of the most violent gangs in the world. They let them in here. It's like it makes no sense whatsoever. It's just very destructive. But that's who the Democrats are. And I think the only way to defend against that destructive force is go on offense and, really govern America for the benefit of the American people.
Okay, so what is the offense? Because when Americans look at it, they can't get voter ID and birth certificates passed. There's been no accountability for treason and sedition. You have John Brennan out saying on MSNBC that there are people within the government who are openly subverting the president. I mean, he puts it differently. He says they're not, that they're not executing on unlawful or politicized orders and policies, whatever. But basically, what he's describing is subversion. So there's been no accountability for treason and sedition. The same people that went after the president in the first term, who were responsible for the seditious and treasonous conspiracy of Russia collusion, who colluded with foreign powers from MI6, and beyond, right? Those same people are still running the conspiracy against the president today. And it's not just the president who's being subverted, it's the will of the American people. So, I hear you and I agree with you that the best defense is an offense. What's the offense?
Yeah. Well, what I can do as the United States Senator and Chairman of the Permanent Subcommittee Investigation, I can investigate. And I can expose corruption. I'm doing that inside HHS. We certainly did that with Hunter Biden. But, we need the Department of Justice and the FBI, first of all, to be fully staffed. I don't want to make excuses for them, but the fact of the matter is that's a real problem inside the Department of Justice. They had to, first of all, fire a bunch of leftists. A bunch of leftists left. It's very difficult for them to staff up because of the lawfare. The left is extremely good at destroying people's career of anybody in the law profession who would actually represent President Trump. President Trump had a hard time finding people to defend him in the 2020 election. So, again, the left is relentless in what they're trying to do to pursue power. They play politics like a blood sport, whereas we try and follow the rules. But it really requires the Department of Justice. I don't have the resources to do the investigation. I can't indict people. I can't prosecute people. They have to do it. Now, part of the thing as well is the emphasis on the Epstein papers. And listen, I'm as curious as any American in terms of what happened there. I'm obviously want justice for the victims. I'm more interested, though, quite honestly, in terms of who was Jeffrey Epstein? Who is he working for? But all the emphasis, the millions of pages the Department of Justice had to go through, they got to protect people's personal identities and personal, information. That takes a lot of time, a lot of resources, which just delayed their actions, some of the prosecutions. Now, we're being told that we're going to see a lot more activity now with Todd Blanche in the next few weeks. They've kind of got the Epstein papers behind him, and now they can concentrate on some of these cases. But they need to. What I hear from constituents or just comments in my tweets. So, that's good. Another report, another letter. When are you going to see somebody in jail? So, our supporters are growing pretty restless. They certainly want to see people held accountable for all of the offenses done by the Biden administration, by the radical leftists.
Yes, and okay, so there's a couple things to unpack there. One is inside the Department of Justice, right, and the FBI, where there's a lot of frustration from the public. I hear it all the time as well, the same thing that you're hearing. So my question to you is this: as long as you allow people to continue to subvert the government, they will continue subverting the government. The reason that they have trouble replacing all those people and the reason they're battling the lawfare is that they haven't dismantled the conspiracy that finances it and runs it. They haven't dismantled the operation. In fact, they haven't even gotten anyone accountable for that. And so, for example, you've got people within the Justice Department subverting the president and the attorney general by leaking. Well, none of those people have been charged for leaking. Where are the charges? Why aren't those people put on administrative leave and under investigation with their security clearances indefinitely suspended so that they are removed? They no longer have placement, they no longer have access, and they can no longer subvert the will of the people. In a world where man-made viruses keep escaping from labs and Big Pharma keeps pushing more shots and more pills, more people are waking up and choosing real protection, natural God-given defenses instead of dependence on the system. Dr. Stella Immanuel's Daily Wellness Bundle was created exactly for this moment. It combines 4 powerful pillars: hydration, herbal defense, immune support, and raw nutrition to help strengthen your body the way it was designed to be strengthened. It starts with the Daily Wellness Medicinal Herb Tea Mix: ginger, turmeric, hibiscus, and lemongrass. These time-tested herbs support digestion, reduce inflammation, and help fortify your natural immune response. Next is Revive Immunolite Plus, an electrolyte formula that replenishes vital minerals, supports deep hydration, energy, recovery, and mental clarity when stress or toxins hit hard. Then there's Viral Immune Plus, packed with vitamins, minerals, and natural compounds, traditionally used to help your body defend itself. No waiting for the next government protocol. And finally, bitter raw apricot seeds, a natural source of amygdalin included in Dr. Stella's broader nutritional approach. This isn't about fear. It's about taking back control of your health with real natural tools. If you're ready to stop outsourcing your wellness to big pharma and start building true daily immune strength, visit marketplace.drstellamd.com/Lara today and get Dr. Stella's Daily Wellness Bundle.
So my guess is not because President Trump doesn't want that to happen, or the Kash Patel, or now Todd Blanche doesn't want that to happen. Do they have the personnel who are actually dedicated to doing that? I mean, there's a reason they call it sabotage. You don't necessarily know who's doing it. Somebody comes into your office, you think they're supportive, they're smiling in your face, and then they leave your office and they don't do what you ask them to do. It is hard to investigate. I mean, trust me, I didn't come to Congress to be investigated, but that's what I've turned into. It's hard to uncover wrongdoing. People do things wrong, they cover their tracks.
Sure.
Inside government now, they're fully aware of FOIA. We saw it, and by the way, it was that David Morin's indictment. That all came about because my staff pulled a needle out of a haystack. We were investigating, obviously, the Biden HHS, right, and how they did COVID. We weren't getting any documents from HHS, but we were getting documents from some of the grantees of these universities. So we got 115,000-page document production out of a university in Texas, and my staff pulled that David Morin's email out of, that needle out of the haystack, the one where he said, I've got a FOIA lady showing me how to make emails disappear. If you have sensitive information, send it to my email. So now we sent that to the Biden Inspector General in HHS. He didn't do anything with it at all. And it took the Trump team to get in place to get people out of the way that would actually take a look at it, over a year before they finally were able to take up that investigation and return an indictment. So the wheels of justice do take time. Investigating crimes, proving crimes, particularly in America, particularly in D.C., extremely. I mean, you've got a jury pool here that's 99% Democrat.
Yeah.
They can convict Republicans. Very difficult to convict Democrats here. So again, it's a difficult process. And Lara, nobody can out frustrate me. Trust me. But it's a frustrating process.
I'll give you a run for your money on the frustrating part. I tell you why, okay? Here it is. So Tulsi Gabbard, she ordered an investigation into the treasonous conspiracy. 5.5 months at the beginning of the administration. They gathered all the evidence. It was walked over to the Department of Justice and the FBI, and still there's nothing. I mean, more than a year later. So I understand that things are difficult, especially you got millions of Epstein documents. How long does it take to go through all of that and all the other things they had to do? And let's face it, those documents were probably scrubbed long before Trump even took office in his first term. I mean, if anyone thinks that these people who are so corrupt are going to leave behind all the evidence so that they can all be convicted, I mean, you really got to be an idiot to think it's all just sitting there and someone's just withholding it, right? That doesn't even make sense. But we have other things here that have been investigated. You've been working on the COVID stuff for how long? I mean, for years now. From the very beginning, you've been holding, even into the Biden administration, hearing after hearing after hearing. And we still have, Rand Paul came out with a big, announcement today. And I know that, you're both on the Homeland Security Committee. And he says there's a whistleblower from a COVID-19 whistleblower who will testify publicly and in person before his committee tomorrow morning that the intelligence community has covered up the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic for years. Now, listening to Rand Paul talk about this, he says, the U.S. created it in China, which we all knew. I knew that. I was reporting that within a week of COVID actually starting. I was reporting that U.S. intelligence was involved, and this was, being done at our behest because Congress under Obama had made gain-of-function research in the United States illegal, so we just farmed it out. So there are many people who knew about this for years. And Rand Paul is still out there saying it probably escaped from the lab by accident. By accident. So we take one step forward. We're now going to finally admit what, a lot of people already know, that the U.S. military and the U.S. government was involved in the development of COVID-19, that it took place in China and came out of that lab instead of the wet market. Okay, everybody's known that for years. But we're still saying this just happened by accident?
Well, by the way, we've known for years because we found out that the CIA paid some of their analysts to change their opinion in terms of where this sprang from. I quite honestly, I like you, I assumed immediately when you heard about fear and cleavage site. I talked to computational biologists. They were 100% sure. The guys that Fauci initially contacted were 100% sure this was lab created, right?
Yes.
So I was always, that was not a mystery to me. I just never thought that we'd actually get the smoking gun on that. So I never investigated that. I just thought that was a waste of time. I spent my time trying to figure out, for a true COVID reckoning, what happened? Why did they sabotage early treatment? Why did they continue to sabotage early treatment? I want to prevent, now they're talking about hantavirus, right?
Yeah.
They want to whip this into, again, some huge pandemic, scare the crap out of people, so everybody goes rushing down for the next mRNA vaccine. So
we're not doing it.
I've been trying to investigate that, and Lara, so what is frustrating to me, 2 Wednesdays ago, I held a hearing and released a report.
Yes.
This is because Bobby Kennedy released 11 million pages against the resistance of his agency. They didn't want to give us this information. He finally got so frustrated, just give them the 11 million pages. Not easy to go through. But again, my staff pulled needles out of the haystack, and we uncovered, and this is shocking. This is a bombshell revelation. This should lead the news on major news stations.
That's why you're on this show.
It's all radio silent. So what we uncovered is that on March 1st of 2021, less than 3 months after these shots this gene therapy was being administered, the head of CBER, the head of the Vaccine Approval Agency, the Safety Surveillance Agency, Peter Marks, was briefed that their algorithm that they were using to analyze VAERS was going to hide and mask safety signals. 26 days later, the data mining expert working with the inventor of the algorithm came up with a state-of-the-art algorithm and presented to senior FDA officials that they were seeing 49 cases of extreme masking and 25 safety signals now were being revealed, including sudden cardiac death, pulmonary infarction, Bell's palsy, different types of strokes. Month after month, they kept doing this data mining. They kept showing more and more, sudden death in multiple forms. Now, you think FDA, pinned a medal on their chest and go, thank you, and so let's get out and warn the American public? No. They shunned her off to the side. They told her to cease and desist. She was being a pest. They didn't want to create vaccine hesitancy. Their email saying, remember, President Biden really wants to push these boosters. They wanted to mandate this. So the very people who approved these vaccines, the very people who were supposed to be watching for the smallest little safety signals so they could warn the public, they were warned of major safety signals, and they covered it up and lied to the American people. They're still lying. And if you're somebody who tragically, after March 1st, when they were warned, or certainly after March 26th, and relied on their assurance that this was safe and effective and that vaccine injuries were mild and rare, and you got that shot, or your loved one got that shot, and you died, or your loved one died, or you're permanently disabled, if I were somebody in that position, and by the way, I know people who are permanently disabled. I know people who died of this.
So do
I want to see these people criminally charged, and so I'm not giving up. I know how difficult it is. It's hard. Government protects itself. Government employees are very well protected. But I'm going to do everything I can first to expose this and shame the networks and to start covering it. I was scheduled to do a CNN interview last Wednesday, and I sent them my report, told them I want to talk about that. They canceled the interview. Now, I've mentioned this on media, and so the producer go, no, we didn't cancel because of that. And, we just wanted to change the direction of our interview.
Sure. Yeah,
so okay, ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS, put me on CNN, put me on and talk about this scandal because the American people need to know this. I mean, think of the hundreds of thousands of people injured the tens of thousands of people that died, children died. I'm trying to get the documents right now. FDA has admitted through that Vinay Prasad memo, 10 autopsies they reviewed, they are certain COVID injection killed those children. And you know how difficult it was to get an autopsy during COVID. So this is the tip of the iceberg.
If you think parasites are not a first world problem, think again. Recent data suggests 60 million Americans are currently infected, from unwashed produce and pets to that quick gas station sushi. Many of us have become unsuspecting hosts to microscopic invaders. And these parasites, they don't just live in your gut. They manipulate your mind and release neurotoxins that trigger unexplained anxiety, debilitating fatigue, and chronic brain fog. They even hijack your hormones to make you crave the sugar that they need to survive. So if you're exhausted or you're bloated or you just feel off, you're probably under siege. So that's why Purged Advanced Digestive Cleanse was created. It is not a gentle detox. It's a tactical strike that's designed to hunt and flush these invaders, all natural, organic, and powerful enough to reclaim your system. So we have a limited time offer. Go to www.purgestore.com/Logan and use code Logan, LOGAN, for 10% off your entire order. Plus, if you start a subscription, you'll get a free Toxie Binder, which is our premium heavy metal detox with your Purge order. So stop being an unwilling host. Go to purgestore.com/Logan today and purge the invaders. Reclaim your life. Okay, Ron, this is absolutely unforgivable. It's unforgivable because they pushed that through when they knew it's not just that they covered up the data that actually showed the mRNA shot was killing people. It's the fact that they lied in the first place. They lied about ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine when they already knew. They did that on purpose to suppress a treatment that was cheap. It was available all over the world. There would have been no pandemic if everyone had just said use ivermectin and fenbendazole and a Z-Pack and take some vitamin D. It would have been over. No pandemic. They didn't need the mRNA shot.
They destroyed the careers of doctors and nurses who had the courage to treat patients. They destroyed their careers, and they didn't have to destroy too many before the rest of the medical profession said, yeah, I can't prescribe ivermectin for you.
Yeah.
To hospitals wouldn't allow it to be administered.
And those who did were punished, and they're still being punished. Yeah. There's still doctors today fighting for their licenses who've lost their practices, who've lost their careers. Still today, I met a woman on a plane whose mother has lost everything. As a concrete worker, she wouldn't take the vaccine. So this woman is now moving in with her daughter because her case has been dragging on for 4 or 5 years, and she's bankrupt. How many more are there? How many American soldiers whose careers were destroyed, who are still fighting to come back, who are being told, no, you have to come back at the rank at which you left? And so now the people that try to force you to take this are now your superiors in rank. They've advanced. They get higher pay. They have more authority. They have more benefits. And you're subject to them. Because you're being punished for the fact that you wouldn't go along with what we know was intentional. It was absolutely criminal. And yet we are a year and a half into this administration, almost a year and a half into this administration. And I'm not even aware. Are you aware of any investigations into COVID in the Department of Justice? Are there any criminal prosecutions underway?
No. I mean, partly, I hate to say this, because President Trump wants to believe that the COVID injection saved tens of millions of lives. I mean, I think that's just a fact, okay? So that is definitely hampering this administration looking into it, but it doesn't hamper me, which is why I'm doing. This was such evil perpetrated. I mean, this is evil covering this stuff up.
It is.
But it is so evil, and across the board, everybody was involved. The federal health agencies, the medical establishment, doctors, members of Congress who cut videos, get that jab, end this pandemic. Everybody was pushing this on everybody.
Those morons that went out singing and dancing.
Nobody wants to admit that what they pushed on the American public killed them, permanently disabled tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. They don't want to. I just did an interview. I got a text from somebody, a senior woman, okay?
Yeah.
She had myocarditis immediately after the shot.
Yeah.
She never had myocarditis. All of a sudden, she had, and still affecting her.
Permanent heart damage. Permanent heart damage that will probably lead to her death. And let's not forget, there are still people that are dying from this mRNA shot today. There are still. What about the young girls who was rendered sterile? You know, whose reproductive health has been completely wrecked. There's plenty of information on that as well. And yet,
so this was so evil that is why there is such resistance to admitting it, that they were wrong. They are going to do everything they can to keep this covered up because there's so many people involved in this and are implicated and incriminated in this. So there's just so many. It's just across the board. And quite honestly, the American public, they want to move on. If you got that injection, you don't want to hear about DNA contamination. You don't want to hear about turbo cancers. You want to believe that, okay, well, my myocarditis really was just mild and I'm all recovered now. That's not what myocarditis does.
No.
So we're just in a nationwide, probably global state of denial here. And that's what we're up against. Those of us who are trying to expose this truth, we're just running into a brick wall.
But the president was lied to. You know, I mean, he wasn't part of the cover-up. He didn't know that it was harming people. And in fact, he was only there at the very beginning of the rollout of the vaccine, right? And he wasn't the one pushing the mandates.
I wish you were fighting side by side with me going, I want to get to the bottom of this. I mean, this is like he does with childhood vaccines, quite honestly. He's excellent. He admits that what we're doing to these beautiful little babies is just wrong, just pumping them full of all this stuff. And you look at the increase in chronic illness and autism with the increase in the childhood vaccine schedule.
Autoimmune diseases.
He's right. Yeah, I mean, you are when you give somebody a vaccine, you're impacting their immune system. I mean, just imagine the hubris of people going, oh, well, yeah, but we know what we're doing so well that we're only positively impacting the immune system. All these other chronic illnesses that are autoimmune or immune deficiencies, we're not causing that. That's because our vaccines are safe and effective. You know, it is absurd.
At the same time, I just want to point out, how rich did it make them?
Pretty rich.
I mean, we're talking trillions of dollars.
Well, I don't know. For sure, probably hundreds of billions.
Hundreds of billions.
Tens of billions for sure. But the cost is incalculable. Again, Lara,
yes.
The CDC study from Harvard, the Pilgrim study, showed that less than 1% of adverse events are reported to VAERS. 39,000 deaths are reported worldwide. If that's only 1%, it's a factor of 100. That's 3.9 million people. Somewhere in that range is probably how many people died from the COVID injection. We've got almost 1.7 million adverse events. Multiply that times 100 or 50 or 30, whatever. It's understated. This was, and again, now we know they knew that. They were aware. I mean, I didn't need a sophisticated algorithm prior to 2021 with the role of these vaccines. On average, about 280 people died. Reported to VAERS has died from a vaccine. 280, anaphylactic shock, that type of thing. 2021, 21,000 people died. I didn't need a sophisticated algorithm to say, whoa, something's happening here. And plus, that 39,000 that are reported died from the COVID injection, 24% of those people died either the day of vaccination or within 1 or 2 days. And of course, VAERS doesn't prove causation. Well, that's a correlation that if I had a loved one that I know went and got a COVID jab and died that day, or fell ill and died within a day or two, I know what I would blame.
Yeah. Well, and for those people who don't know, VAERS is the vaccine accident, right? It's the registry for adverse effects.
Vaccine adverse event reporting system.
Yes, which throughout the time that we've all been told vaccines don't harm anyone, there's been consistent payouts from VAERS to people who've been vaccine injured, as they've admitted that vaccines have been harming people while they lied to us. And does Fauci's pardon mean that he just gets away with it? He just walks away scot-free?
Well, Fauci's pardon is for federal charges only. So a state, if they're outraged enough, could possibly bring him up. But I'd
What
imagine
about
that
a
federal
civil
part is
lawsuit?
pretty all-encompassing.
Can he be sued by all the victims, people, a class action suit from victims, people who've lost family
that's what we're
members?
exploring right now. I mean, I've had a pretty long conversation with Aaron Siri. You know, we really protect the government.
Aaron Siri is
We really protect
man.
government workers. I mean, we do that. There are some laws, particularly if there's fraud involved. But there may be a door opening there. Maybe what we need to do is pass a law, if nothing else, just to highlight why we want to be able to press charges against somebody like Fauci or Peter Marks or some of these other people involved in this thing. But again, I'm not giving up on this. I understand the powerful interests I'm up against, the resistance on the American public they just want to move on. I'm not moving on. We need to have a Coven reckoning. We can't allow this to happen again. And you can see them ginning up with this hantavirus right away.
Yep.
So they've got vaccines in the background. I'm sure they're going to be recommending, all of a sudden, this is transmission human to human. Well, it always could if you're really close to somebody that's really showing symptoms, okay? But we just got to report, this is the same genome of the hantavirus we've seen in other places. This is not a new virus here, but they're making it sound like it's something novel. Something that you better rush out and get this new mRNA-based hantavirus vaccine.
Okay, so I know that this is not politically correct. I'm putting you on the spot. John Thune, a lot of people hate him. Is he a good guy or not?
Okay, first of all, we can't end the filibuster because of John Thune. John Thune doesn't have the votes. Okay, again, as I described, there are Republican senators here. I mean, I would like the filibuster, the 60-vote threshold, when Democrats empower us to block their destructive radical left. But I'm realistic enough to realize times have changed. Democrats don't respect the filibuster. They're going to end it the minute it's advantageous for them to do so. So I say let's act first. Let's use that tool and try and save this country. I don't know where John would fall on that, but I do know he doesn't have the votes because we've got, again, it's a legitimate concern. Not having that when they're in control, but they also don't want to vote to give Democrats that tool. But to me, it's kind of like, okay, you got a murderer sitting out across the table. There's a gun in the middle of the desk. I don't want to hand that gun to him, but I sure want to grab it myself, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're at. I think we need to grab that tool and use it first to save this country before Democrats have a chance to use it to turn this into a one-party nation.
Okay, and let's be brutally honest. Mitch McConnell has dementia. He is in the same state as Joe Biden. He has no business still being in his seat.
I would dispute that. And listen, he has had some grievous injuries. He's physically impaired. I listen to him speak. I really do not see the mental. I do not. I'm being perfectly honest with you. I don't think that's true. But it's sad to watch anybody age, especially somebody who had a terrible fall, significant head injury and stuff. So he doesn't have balance and stuff. So he looks feeble. I think his mind is still completely there. I've heard him talk. I've heard him, argue inside the conference. I don't think there's a mental issue there. I really do not believe that.
Okay.
I would not be lying to you. I would dodge the question if I didn't believe that.
Yes, I know you well enough to know you would do that. Okay, John Brennan, can I play you something very short, very quickly?
He's a criminal.
Yes, he is a criminal. Look what he said today on Nicole Wallace's show on MSNBC. Can we play that, Keith?
He has succeeded largely in turning DOJ and the FBI into political arms of his political operation. What still exists in the system to slow that down?
Well, I think, as Liz mentioned, there's still a legion of professionals in the law enforcement environment, the Department of Justice, as well as the CIA and other places, the ones who are refusing to follow politically motivated prosecutions, those who are refusing to support any type of political activities on the part of the Trump administration that are inconsistent with the authorities, the responsibilities of the intelligence community, law enforcement community, and Department of Justice. Okay.
So, I mean, is that not the absolute definition of subversion?
Well, it's hypocrisy. When he says, law enforcement professionals, he means law enforcement radical leftists that subverted justice when they were in charge. I mean, the same people that when Senator Grass said, I issue our report in September 2020 about the Hunter Biden, all of his connections with criminal enterprises, sex trafficking, international sex trafficking, refused to prosecute the Manns Act, for example. Now we have documents, showing that, but I knew that. So no, when he says professional, he's talking about the leftists in the deep state that is on his side.
Yes.
We're not talking about, nonpartisan actors here. We're talking about highly partisan actors who infiltrate. Most people. Government attracts people who love government, right? Conservatives don't like government. Conservatives generally don't like serving in government.
Yeah.
Leftists do.
I know. Okay, but look at what she's saying there. Slow that down. Slow down. That's the tactic. If they can just stall everything, make sure that Trump doesn't move forward ahead. Then he says there's a legion of people inside the DOJ, law enforcement, and the CIA who are refusing to follow politically motivated orders, right? And political and implement that is a crime.
They are refusing to follow the orders of a duly elected president because they're politically motivated.
Yes.
And that's it. So these are the deep state leftist actors in government. That's what's making it so difficult.
But what do we do?
They look at any president, any secretary or department secretary as this too shall pass. We can wait these people out, and that's exactly what John Brennan's showing there.
And they're winning because no one's doing anything to stop them. If you arrested Norm Eisen, who is responsible for funding and running the lawfare, if you went after David Brock as a co-conspirator, along with George Soros and Susan Rice and John Brennan and all the people that are carrying out this treasonous conspiracy against the president, if you arrested them and charged them and put them away, you would find those little cockroaches inside the DOJ and all the rest of it, they'd go running for cover.
That's why we prosecute crimes, to punish the people who've committed them as well as to deter other people from committing them. But I'm in the same position as you. I can expose this. I have no power to indict or prosecute or convict. So, I mean, that's the frustration we both share.
So now all the stuff is coming out. The 2020 election was stolen. There's legions of evidence. COVID was murder and a cover-up. Legions of evidence. There's a treasonous conspiracy still ongoing against the president and the American people. So there's all this exposure and absolutely nothing being done that we know of. Because I'm conscious that I don't know everything. Maybe there's stuff going on that I don't know about. But what I hear from the Justice Department is, treason is very hard to prosecute.
No, I know, and I'm sure it is. So. You remember John Durham? He would never indict unless he knew he could get conviction. It's very difficult to get a conviction here in D.C. against the Democrats. So again, I'm not there. I can't really speak to. I can just share your frustration, and I share the frustration of so many people who voted for this president and want to see him clean house, drain the swamp. It's hard to drain.
It's hard to drain, especially when it's working against you to this degree. Ron, I know that you've got to go. I appreciate you for making time for us. And I know how hard you're working up there. It must be frustrating for you too, because I know the Senate is getting hammered right now, and you're not one of the people standing in the way of the Save America Act and the will of the American people. But unfortunately, too many of your colleagues seem to lack your moral courage.
Well, listen, I appreciate you reaching out here. Let's do this again real soon. Got a lot to talk about.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care.
Okay, you know what to do. Please like, share, subscribe. We're very, very grateful to all of our subscribers. You keep us going. Thank you for supporting independent journalism. Thank you for being regular viewers of the show. We are very, very grateful. It means a lot to us. And most of all, thank you for being bold enough to go rogue with Lara Logan.